They've gone back to the basics now, and if this transfer proves to be anything like the ones from the last, Joshua Zirkzee is all set to explode at Manchester United, but the question is, who exactly is he? Joshua Zirkzee was born in the Netherlands on the 22nd of May 2001. His dad was Dutch, but his mom was Nigerian. His footballing career began at local clubs VV Hechelingen and Spartan 20, and after he'd up his game, Zirkzee got scouted by the ADO Den Haag youth system. In there, he continued to grow, and it was clear the kid had bags of potential and was bound to succeed. By 2016, Zirkzee had become so good that he was now ready to switch academies. Feyenoord had more advanced plans of getting him to grow faster and the opportunity of first-team football, so he went to join them. He played for the under-16s, 17s, and 18s, and just when he thought the plan was to keep the pace up and earn his way into the first team, Zirkzee soon realized he'd be on the move again, because a big club had seen the crazy potential in him and wanted to make the deal permanent. Bayern Munich. See, they'd been keeping tabs on Zirkzee for a long while now, and after watching him for that long, they liked what they'd seen. So they signed Zirkzee for a reported $150,000. Zirkzee went straight into Bayern youth team setup, and despite a slow start, he soon started banging in the goals at the youth level. 15 goals and 9 assists in 16 games for Bayern's under-17s, Zirkzee was proving to be a goal machine. And form like that was exciting the senior coaching staff too. At the time, Bayern Munich had Robert Lewandowski in attack, and it's safe to say it would have taken something or someone extraordinary to keep Lewandowski on the bench or out of the team. But the idea was for Zirkzee to learn off him in as many ways possible. Zirkzee had spent 2 years in Bayern's academy playing in the UEFA Youth League and different underage group competitions. And it was all a learning curve for Zirkzee between the period he joined Bayern. He spent 3 years playing youth team football to develop his skills. However, at the start of the 2019-20 season, Bayern and Hansi Flick were ready to take a chance, and Zirkzee brought him in for preseason. He performed well enough. Now, I say this because at the time, Bayern wasn't exactly the best of teams in squad depth, especially in the center-forward department. The only out-and-out striker they had at the club was Robert Lewandowski, and when he didn't play, which was very rarely, Thomas Müller led the line, and he wasn't exactly a recognized number 9. Zirkzee's addition to the squad helped fill up the role, and after making the bench and developing with each training session, Flick decided to give Zirkzee a run out in the team against Freiburg at the end of 2019. He came on as a 90th minute sub to play what was supposed to be just a couple of seconds, but apparently that was all he needed. Got off to a lightning start. 3 days later, Zirkzee was brought off the bench again. This time he got 7 minutes of action against Wolfsburg, and he was at it again. 2 sub appearances off the bench, 2 goals. There was something in the guy. Zirkzee featured in and around the first team after that, and by the time the 2019-20 season had ended, he was going home with the Champions League winner's medal. Part of the Bayern team that won the treble, Zirkzee played 12 games for Bayern's senior team that campaign, bagging 4 goals and 1 assist. Considering the fact that he was still only 18 years old, the signs were very encouraging, but ultimately that early start did more than just build his confidence. He wanted more, and was ready to take any opportunity he could get. 2020-21, that was a season Zirkzee would have wished to forget. Despite the promising signs he showed early on, Zirkzee knew what the reality was. With Lewandowski in the team, he was hardly going to get any minutes on the board. Up to January 2021, he'd only featured 3 times in the Bundesliga, 1 Champions League appearance, and a Super Cup appearance, all of this with no goals to show for it. And in the winter window that came up, Zirkzee was ready to leave. He wanted more opportunities to play elsewhere and show his stuff. And an Italian club swooped in on him. Parma. They had a loan agreement with Bayern to get Zirkzee until the end of the season, but he only managed to play 2 games for the team. He missed 3 matches on the spin, came back, and still had to make cameos from the bench before his season came to an end in the saddest way possible. He suffered an LCL injury and couldn't play anymore that campaign. Zirkzee ended the entire season playing for Bayern and Parma with no goals to show for it. He didn't let this get into his head though. Worked hard on getting his fitness back, and during the off-season, after he hit that subscribe button to footballers like you're about to now, Zirkzee was back fit and ready to take on another challenge again. He signed for Anderlecht on loan until the end of the season. At Anderlecht, Zirkzee rediscovered his goal-scoring touch. 18 goals and 13 assists in 47 games. There's something about Zirkzee's game that started developing here. A new trait that I'll mention later on. But at this moment, Zirkzee was back to scoring goals. He'd even matured as a player too. Now he was captaining the Dutch under-21s. After his impressive loan spell at Anderlecht, Zirkzee returned to Bayern, and now there was genuine interest for him to stay. Robert Lewandowski had switched clubs and joined Bayern Munich. The club didn't have an out-and-out striker, and this should have been Zirkzee's chance to nail a spot in the first team. But the interest in him sort of phased out, and seeing as things were going, Zirkzee decided he wasn't going to wait around and see if he'd get a shot. Another Italian team was ready to take a chance on him. This time, though, they wanted it to be permanent. A fresh start for Zirkzee, and he was more than ready to take it. Bologna signed him for a fee of $27.5 million, but the terms of the deal showed Bayern still had faith that Zirkzee would come good. They had a sell-on fee on Zirkzee should he decide he wanted to leave, and also had a buyback clause in the contract too. Now in Bologna, especially after the season he had at Anderlecht, the expectation was that Zirkzee would blossom quickly, but it was a tough start. 21 games that season, 2 goals and 2 assists. The numbers were bad. According to Zirkzee himself, though, there was a reason for that. I wasn't ready mentally, not like Moda wanted anyway. Zirkzee's words, why'd he say that? Well, part of the reason Zirkzee didn't get as much action at Bologna was because the head coach, Thiago Motta, demanded more from him. When he wasn't getting that, he started Mario Arnautovic ahead of Zirkzee, back on the bench again. But just like he'd done all his young career, Zirkzee put in the hard yards. He got to work in preseason and it paid off. At the end of the previous campaign, Zirkzee had rediscovered his form in very interesting ways too. For Bologna last season, he scored 11 goals and 5 assists in Serie A, 12 goals and 7 assists in all competitions. I did mention earlier that there was something about Zirkzee's game he'd unlocked, and it was back again. Zirkzee was a mix of everything and everyone he'd studied under. Standing at 6'3", his tall, athletic frame allowed him to act as a target man up front when his team needed him to, but at the same time, Zirkzee's a very good dribbler, and because of that, he most times liked to drop deep, receive the ball, and turn at defenders, meaning he could mix it up and shake up a defense whenever he needed to. As the clip shows, his starting position from midfield showed he could dribble with the ball easily. He attempted 119 dribbles last season, dropped 43 key passes, and created 11 big chances. He also completed 897 passes last campaign, an unusually high stat for most strikers, showing his ability to easily link up play. What's next for Zirkzee? After completing the move to Manchester United, he's got the world at his feet. He can be anything he wants to. He said that his idols are Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Gabriel Batistuta, who are 2 excellent players. But seeing him day to day, he reminds me of Ronaldinho. But I cannot compare him to anyone. He's just Joshua, and he's special. This was his former coach, Thiago Motta, talking about him. At Manchester United, Zirkzee's addition to the squad offers a dynamic approach to the attack. He's quite different from Rasmus Højlund, another attacker who came from Syria to United last season. Watching Zirkzee play is clear, it's more than just goals. He adds to the team, dropping deep into midfield. Zirkzee could potentially become an outlet to allow other players off the attack flow. It'll be interesting to watch him in the Premier League. One thing's for certain, if he can hit the ground running and be anything like he was at Bologna and Anderlecht, Zirkzee could cause a storm in the Premier League and become the next Ruud van Nistelrooy, or even better, the first Joshua Zirkzee. Whatever happens though, the guy's bound to succeed. I know this because he's already subscribed to Footballers.